Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Breaking the Silence, a podcast where we talk about recovery, mental health. We talk about a variety of different topics for our viewers to listen and hopefully get something out of it. I am your host, Allen Kharlip, clinical supervisor of Addiction Rehab Toronto, and I'm very, very honored to have my good friend and colleague on the show today, Mr. Joe Tilley. Joe, thanks for joining us today.
Allen, great to be here, buddy. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, former amateur boxer, professional boxer, also, somebody that really leaves a very, very insightful and strong voice in the sports field and industry. Have your own podcast as well called The Great Canadian Sports Show, which is amazing. And, I'm happy and been able to be a part of it for, a couple times, and just, how you're able to sort of keep that going. But, I wanted to bring you on here, and, obviously, recovery is the forefront of kind of what we talk about here, and just kind of get a little bit of our viewers to kind of get to know you and sort of your experience and everything like that. So tell me a little bit about what you do now and sort of how that paved the way from your earlier years into, what you do today.
Okay, well, yeah. So as far as the boxing career goes, I had a pretty long amateur career, which was pretty successful, had a lot of fun, got a chance to travel, and it was great. And my amateur boxing career is actually what got me out of my first addictive funk, if you will. So when I was 18, 19 years old, I was a teenage alcoholic, and with basically hopeless, helpless. I didn't know what was going on. I was basically dying. I was depressed. I didn't know how to get out of this funk. So I turned to boxing when I was a teenager, and it did help me get turned around. It helped me change my life to a large degree, and everything started to change because I wasn't drinking. I was able to summon the willpower necessary to stop drinking in that particular time, which was a little bit detrimental down the road because I believed I still had willpower. I believe the willpower allowed me to do this, but I believe perhaps there was some divine intervention at the time too. I don't know, but something happened, and I was able to quit drinking, and I started training, and it changed my life, and ended up going back to school. Ended up, going to university. At one time I was going to be an actor, but during my last year at university, I started working for the campus radio station, and I turned that into a broadcasting career, and which I felt might have offered more of a permanent, regular paycheck type job, And so I was getting married, and all that stuff happens, and then when I got into the broadcast business and became quite successful at that, I ended up moving to Toronto. All through this time, drinking was starting to infiltrate my life in a big way again. I used to be able to, hold it to weekends at one particular time, but then it became a few times during the week, and then became every night during the week, and it got to the point where I had to drink every night, every day, and every night. And it caused a lot of problems at work, obviously, and it obviously caused a lot of problems at home. But this, we had 3 kids, and my wife was at her wit's end and had enough, and she finally told me it was time to go. So I had to go and leave, and I ended up living in my buddy's 1-bedroom basement apartment, and sleeping on his love seat, and that was what happened in my life. And one day, after being introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous, being introduced to being having it suggested to me that I go for treatment by a few people, I eventually made that call. And when I realized that that depression that I talked about at a younger age, that I had a wife and 3 kids, but I wasn't seeing them. I was at home. I was, and part of me didn't want to see him. I just wanted to drink. I just wanted to party. I just wanted to, have fun. And having fun was not fun anymore.
For sure.
At all.
How old were you around this time where you were?
So, 35 years old.
Okay.
So now I'm 35 years old, and I'm drinking daily, and I can't stop. So I reached out and I made a call and I ended up in treatment. And, I was introduced to 12-step recovery, and a lot of the people that I was listening to and hearing from in treatment talked about 12-step recovery. I was, introduced to that, and I thought that perhaps it worked for them. Maybe it could work for me. And ultimately, I was willing to do whatever they said to get out of that rut. And so I did. When I got out of treatment, I started going to 12-step meetings, and I started to. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps into my life, and I started to change. And really was a life unfolded that I didn't believe was even possible before. Right?
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, you sum it up so beautifully there, but it's like, and this is something that maybe our viewers can relate with, or maybe identify or build some awareness, because here you are, professional boxer, very successful career,
amateur,
it doesn't matter.
But a boxer, yeah.
But still a boxer, right? Still, was driven by the persistent effort of winning and losing, right? And that obviously kind of lit a fire under you. But you look at it on paper, and it's like married, 3 kids, yet I can't stop drinking. And sort of, how did you sort of explore that piece for you, where you came to that understanding and realization?
Well, I tried to quit.
Yeah.
I tried to quit again and again and again. And I remember leaving work saying to myself, you know what, I've had enough. I just going to go straight home. Maybe I can smooth things over with my wife today. And I just need to do that. I know it's killing me. It's like my health is bad and everything's bad. And I am just unable to stop, unable to control it when I pick up. And so what I'd say, I'm not going to drink. I'm just going to go straight home. And I could not go straight home. I always end up at the bar, liquor store, whatever. And I couldn't do it. And once I came to that realization, and I think in treatment helped me understand that, because I believed, I'd quit drinking for like 11 months at a time when I was training to box. And then I'd go out and have a little party for a while and then get back into training again. And I was able to do that. So I was going to summon that willpower. And I kept trying. And I'd find myself drunk again. And I'd go, what happened? And it's like, okay, I just didn't try hard enough. Today, I'm going to try really, 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 really hard, and I'll be able to do it. Yeah. So then I'd quit. Yeah. And I'd go home. And I'd first stop in the 401. I'm getting off, and I'm at the bar. Yeah. And because my own, and I'm thinking I just changed my mind, but the disease changed my mind. Yeah. I had no control over it. Yeah. So a lot of that awareness came over time. But the truth was I could not quit on my own. Yeah. You mentioned willpower as a big thing, right? And I think, to be able to sort of break it down in your interpretation, the difference between willingness and willpower, what was that? Was that something that sort of caught your attention, or, was something that was presented to you to the point where you're like, okay, well, like my willpower obviously gets me only to a certain place. So how do I transcend that and change that into some level of willingness? Well, I because I had some success exercising my will in certain areas, I believed that I could somehow do it. I just needed to summon the confidence, the will to do something, including quitting. But no matter what I tried to do, I could not summon that will. And so the willingness that came along later would be, once I was introduced to recovery, and I was willing to do whatever it takes to recover and to change. And that's where the willingness came in. And so, once I'm, like the how is really kind of important for me. It's the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And when I was honest about my drinking and who I really had become and what the problem was, and truth is, I'm powerless over alcohol. My life is unmanageable. That's the truth. I'm open-minded enough to believe that perhaps the power greater than myself, whatever that happens to be, might be able to restore me to sanity. And then the willingness is like making that decision to turn my will and life over and to do whatever it takes to recover and take whatever steps are necessary. And if that means, becoming open-minded to some kind of power, then I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to try it, because what have I got to lose? I'm just going to die.
Right.
I can always go back to drinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And die. Or I can try something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
What have I got to lose by trying something different? So that's where the willingness to just try that. And, for me, it was getting on my knees and asking for help.
Yeah.
And when I had the willingness to do that, it was a way for me to smash the ego. It was a way for me, by getting on my knees and asking for help, it's a way for me to say to the ego, you are not in charge here. I'm going to a source greater than you, ego, outside of you, ego. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just hanging on to that, and then just continue to, work the program in my life. And then, of course, carrying the message is a big part of it, and all the stuff we do. And it's just, all the steps that we take allow me to become, I believe, the person that, my Creator wanted me to be all along. That's the person that I'm meant to be. This is the person I'm becoming, and that's what I believe has happened as a result of doing this work and changing.
So you go to treatment, you get yourself into a good place, you stay sober, you connect, with the fellowship, and you you sort of change your direction, and obviously become a different person. So how is that transition for you? Because I'm sure when you thought to yourself, okay, sobriety is going to bring me this different level of maybe good feelings, and everything is going to maybe go the way that it's supposed to go. What were some of the challenges that you kind of
coming into sobriety? Somehow I'm going to be able to have fun without drinking. Somehow. That's my idea. Somehow I'm going to be able to have fun without drinking. Because in my disease, the liar disease tells me that I can't have fun without drinking. My disease tells me that, I need it to take the edge off. I need it for whatever. That's what the liar tells me. But what recovery does is it keeps the liar at bay and allows me to experience life in a different way, and to see to look at myself in an objective fashion and realize who I've been, what I am, the fact that I've been dishonest. I've been, a liar, cheat, and a thief, really, throughout my addiction. And so, and I very rarely told the truth. And that's the truth. And so when I look at myself and I see who I really was, I'm, willing to change, because I don't want to be that person. I'm willing to change and do whatever it takes to change, to precipitate that change. And over, through the steps, and I'm able to change. And I know it's helped as well. Like I had counseling to help me to get to the source of my. What it all came down to was this lack of, I guess maybe lack of self-love, self-worth, a belief that I wasn't enough, and that if you really knew me, if you really knew who I was, you probably wouldn't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
I didn't have that value. I needed to find some way to convince you that I had value. And that's what the disease was all about, is finding some way to maybe make you think that I was okay. And that's where a lot of dishonesty came in. And so understanding that was a problem, and realizing that I had been, in my mind, had been left and in my youth, and so I wasn't, they didn't take care of me the way they're supposed to, and I had been left, and somehow I had to get past that, and I had to come to the realization that, I am enough. I don't have to be anything different than I am. Mm-hmm. What I am is great. Mm-hmm. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, okay, no problem. That's up to you. But what's important for me is what do I think? Well, What do I think about myself? What do I think about others? What do I think about you? And it's important for me to start seeing the good in others, and allows me to see the good in myself.
For sure. So you find all these things out. I mean, obviously you'll create this path for yourself, and then you get into media. I mean, when did becoming like a media?
Well, all through this, I've been in the business, the media business for a long time, and probably, I started this journey when I was 35, and I'm still in the media business today, which is 34 years later. So I've been sober for 33 years.
Wow.
And 5 months.
Amazing.
And so thereabouts. Mm. And so it's opened up a lot of avenues. It's allowed me to create a life for myself that I didn't know existed, and to enjoy life on life's terms, to really have fun. I mean, there's been a lot of loss. We lost our son, to addiction, and that was devastating. It was difficult, but I fully, truly know that, the faith that I've developed as a result of recovery, the program of recovery, is I understand that there are no mistakes. Everything happens for a reason, and all of our experiences make us uniquely useful to be of service. Yeah. And today we just came back from England visiting my 2 grandkids there, and I have grandkids. Today I have family and people who know me and understand me, and I know and understand them, and it's like it's just operating at a different level in every aspect of my being.
Yeah, I mean, and just like like I said, to go through that kind of loss, and understanding and coming to that acceptance of I could really focus on the anger and the grief and all of the, the things that sort of we face as people when we're dealing with challenges in our life. But, to be able to sort of walk through it and come to the acceptance of everything happens for a reason. You wouldn't be able to have that foundation if it wasn't for...
It couldn't have happened. I mean, there's so much, there would have been self-pity, self whatever. And I've seen that in a lot of others. It's really hard for some people to come to terms with it. But if I've been able to share Spencer's story with a lot of alcoholics and addicts, and he died of a fentanyl overdose, and so that's such a common thing today. But when I tell this story, to people early in recovery, and I believe that Spencer, because at one time he told me that he wanted to be an addictions counselor. That was what his goal was to be, and in a sense he gets to be that, because he gets to be that person. I tell his story, and everybody walks away knowing about Spencer and knowing he was a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful boy, and 25 years old man, and. Yeah. So anyway, his story gets to be told again and again, and he gets to help people from the realm that he's in today.
So where did for you? I mean, I know you were talking about sports and just how that sort of became the passion for you. Alongside your recovery, when did you start to decide that, hey, I'm gonna start my own podcast and sort of talk about a lot of different topics related to sports? And how did sports make you feel like there was some passion and some a creative sort of pathway of this is what I know I can focus on, because this is what kind of ultimately makes me to some degree content, and it makes it added to the element of your life?
Yeah, well, I've always been a sports fan. I've always loved sports, played hockey, played all the different sports, and baseball and soccer and everything else. And when I was, and I've always been a fan as well. I used to go to, when growing up in Edmonton, I was, a member of the Knothole gang, and we'd sit in the end zone for all the Edmonton Eskimo football games. So I was a big football fan, and when I started working for the sports radio station at the University of Alberta, doing sportscasts there, I worked on some Golden Bears hockey games and stuff. And when I did that, I realized that this is really cool. I'm a sports fan, and I had my last fight, graduated from school, got my first job in the business, got married all at the same time. It all happened at the same time, pretty much within a 3-month period. And I thought, this is perfect for me. I mean, I love sports. I get to talk about sports, and they're paying me for it.
Wow.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
And then, in recovery, I balance that out. I mean, I have my recovery time, I have my work time, and then when they decided to package all the sports people out and just get by with on the news show, the CTV decided that they could do without sports, because if there's a sports story, the anchors can read the sports, and that's what the direction they chose. So they packaged this all out, which worked out great for me. I got packaged out, and then after a period of time, I just started, doing some a sports podcast with another fella first, and then I realized that this is, something I can just do on my own, having a guest on and pick the guest that I want, talk about what I want, and just, and that's what I did. And I just started, I had some contacts, of course, from being in the business, and, made some contacts. And my first guest was Ronnie Ellis, and we talked about, I like to delve deep into people's lives and personalities. And, there's stories. Everybody has a story. And Ronnie Ellis had dealt with depression for many, many years. And he was the first guest I had. And, then I knew Wendell Clark, so I had Wendell on the show, and we had Rick Vive, and, Rick Vive had just come out with a book, and he talked about his journey with alcoholism. And, I've had a lot of people, who've talked about their journey in recovery and otherwise. I've had many guests on the show who are sober long periods of time, and guests, of course, that are not necessarily sober, but they all still have a story, and a lot of people have dealt with depression and anxiety and other things, and so we talk about that in addition to their careers.
Yeah.
And so it's fun.
Well, I mean, there's the relatability piece, because I think, especially when you're, played sports for so long, and it's just been such a big piece and an incremental sort of level of intensity and competition to a certain degree, right? Because you're always trying to be the best. If you're not there to be the best player, I mean, what are you? Yeah. Where's the grit?
We're not going to be talking about it.
Yeah, so. And it sounds like, just hearing people's experiences is like, addiction played a factor in that vibe and how you were able to sort of interview guys and maybe some females too, but just seeing that, how it impacted people, right? And I think that, especially in today's generation, what we're starting to sort of see more and more as you being a sports fan is sports gambling. It's starting to come up, and it's starting to become we were talking about it earlier before the show, the epidemic, right? And I remember I was on your show and we talked a little bit about, the dangers of sports gambling, and it's such a very scary thing to see these days, just because, in 2023, each province in Canada were licensed, and they got their own sort of license to be able to provide legal sports booking in each province, and now it's all regulated by the government and things like that. What have you sort of seen from your experience, being in sports, working with sports, speaking with, people that their lives have been built around sports, and seeing this continuous issue and sort of content come up? Well,
I mean, we've always analyzed games pre, post, and we've always done that. That's part of the sports business, and so we talk about what's going to happen and what. But now it's the difference between now and say 20 years ago is that when we analyze a game, we talk about how the defenses match up and et cetera, whatever, in a football game, or we talk about how the defense matches up against the offense or whatever. But we talk about the hockey. The game is like we talk about the Habs youth versus the Leafs experience, and those are the things we talk about. Now it seems the conversation always gets to, well, the Leafs are 120, plus 120 right now, or the Habs are plus 120, the Leafs are minus 110. And they're talking about the odds for the game, and they're talking about, and there's so much sports betting reference, and they know that, a lot of the revenue generated for the leagues and the teams is from sports books. So we're just inundated. Like, I know a guy, a friend of mine, he said, my 10-year-old son says, why are they always talking about betting, Dad? Like, he doesn't understand. Like, it is weird.
Yeah.
If you look at how it is, it's very weird.
It's almost become part of the ritual where you sit down,
yeah,
and at least that's the way that it's being presented
right.
to folks when they're sitting down with their family or they're sitting down with their friends, and they're watching a game, because sports really, I truly believe sports games and matches and events really bring people together. It's a common thing to be able to be entertained, and now you add this element of let's be entertained, but let's make money or bet money.
Get your device out, and you can enter this code, and you'll get a free $20 bet or whatever, and and it's all bet, and it's crazy. It's too much. And for example, at my show, I don't have any booze sponsors, any sports betting sponsors, and I will never do that, because it's just not who. It goes against everything that I stand for, which is sobriety, and literally sobriety, and sobriety in terms of betting and everything else. I don't want to be promoting that. It's just not what I'm about. So I think it's, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's growing. It's worse than it was, and it's going to be worse than it was a few years from now. It's going to continuously grow, and therefore the problems, gambling problems, are going to grow, and how do we deal with that? How does the government deal with that when they're in the betting business?
Yeah, scary.
It is
scary, right?
But the government's always been in the liquor sales business, right?
Yeah.
And now they're in the sports betting business, and that's what pays for a lot of stuff. So, people who have addictive personalities like me, we have to find a way to, get to a place where we don't have to feed the addiction.
Yeah.
And that's where places like art come into play. It's like a place where you can go to and be taught that there's another way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And learn how to get to that point where we no longer need to have that, to feed the addiction.
If you could sum up to me, and maybe to our viewers that are listening, if you can maybe sum up a phrase or a word or something that you would, pass along if you wanted, if someone was saying, okay, well, what's the...
I know for me, it was like, when I came into the rooms of recovery, I saw people who sounded like me. They sounded like they had the same problems as me, but something had happened to them and they changed. And I think that the word is, there's like hope. Find hope. Believe that, yes, this can happen for you too. Yes, I have this problem too. But just like you, I can, there is a solution.
Yeah.
And find that solution. And just know that you too can be clean, sober, gambling free. That can happen for you if you just follow some simple principles and be willing to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have that honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
I love it.
That's it.
Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Such 3 important pillar words. And you sum up the recovery of that, sir. So thank you so much. I'm here with Joe Tilley. Beautiful, beautiful man, recovery advocate, sports show host, and, has his own podcast, The Great Canadian Sports Show. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.